Here are a few ways on how to validate yourself and stop seeking external validation. 1. Cracking the validation code. Why you're addicted to external approval. The eternal quest for validation, the never-ending search for that elusive stamp of approval from the outside world. It's like a drug, isn't it? We're all guilty of it, constantly scrolling through social media, desperately refreshing our feeds, waiting for that sweet dopamine hit of a like or a comment. And when it doesn't come, well, let's just say it's not a pretty sight. But why do we do this to ourselves? Why are we so addicted to external validation? It's a question that's been puzzling philosophers, psychologists, and self-help gurus for ages. And the answer, my friends, is as complex as it is frustrating. You see, we've been conditioned from a young age to seek the approval of others. From the moment we take our first wobbly steps, we're bombarded with messages telling us that our worth is tied to how others perceive us. Good job, sweetie. Wow, you're so smart. Everyone's gonna love you at the party. It's a never-ending cycle of external validation, and it can be downright exhausting. But here's the thing. Your self-worth is not determined by the opinions of others. It's something that you have to cultivate within yourself, and it's a journey that's worth taking. As the wise Maya Angelou once said, "You alone are enough. You have nothing to prove to anybody." When you learn to validate yourself, you'll find that you become less dependent on the approval of others, and you'll be able to make decisions that are true to your own values and beliefs. It's like discovering a secret superpower that you never knew you had. Now, I know what you're thinking, but how do I do that? Well, my friend, it's all about shifting your mindset and learning to love and accept yourself, flaws and all. It's about realizing that your worth is not determined by the number of likes you get on Instagram or the praise you receive from your boss. As the famous self-help author Brené Brown once said, "Owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing we'll ever do." It's a journey that's not always easy, but it's one that's worth taking. So, what are you waiting for? Let's get started on your journey to self-validation and self-worth. It's time to break the cycle of external approval and start living your best life. Who knows, you might even discover that you're the coolest person you know. And that, my friends, is the ultimate validation. 2. Gender validation, because apparently chromosomes come with an approval rating. Alright, let's talk about something that's been on all of our minds. Gender validation, because apparently your chromosomes come with a built-in approval rating, and if you don't fit neatly into the societal boxes of man or woman, well, buckle up, my friends, because it's going to be a wild ride. Now, I know what you're thinking, but wait, isn't my gender identity something that's supposed to be validated by others? Well, let me tell you, that's a load of hogwash. Your gender identity is a deeply personal and complex part of who you are, and it's something that you get to define for yourself. As the brilliant author and activist Laverne Cox so eloquently put it, your gender identity is valid. Your gender expression is valid. You are valid. And you know what? She's absolutely right. When you start to embrace and validate your own gender identity, you'll find that you become less dependent on the approval of others. You'll be able to make decisions that are true to your own values and beliefs without worrying about what society thinks. But let's be real, folks. It's not always easy to break free from the shackles of gender norms and societal expectations. It's like trying to navigate a minefield of pronouns and dress codes, all while trying to maintain your sanity. And let's not forget the good old-fashioned gender reveal parties, where we celebrate the fact that our babies have a certain set of chromosomes, because, that's the most important thing about them, right? Well, I've got news for you. Your gender identity is not something that can be measured or validated by anyone else. It's a part of who you are, and it's up to you to embrace and celebrate it. As the wise Maya Angelou once said, "You are enough. You have nothing to prove to anybody." So, what are you waiting for? It's time to start validating yourself and rejecting the external approval that society so desperately wants to impose on us. Let's get out there and show the world that your gender identity is valid, your gender expression is valid, and you, my friend, are valid. Because at the end of the day, the only approval you need is your own. And remember, as the famous self-help author Brené Brown so eloquently put it, owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing we'll ever do. So let's get out there and start owning our stories, one gender-defying step at a time. 3. People-pleasing. It's like playing a never-ending game of emotional twister, and it's time to quit. Alright my friends, gather round because I'm about to let you in on a little secret. People-pleasing is the emotional equivalent of playing a never-ending game of Twister, and it's time to quit this madness once and for all. I mean, seriously, how many of us have found ourselves twisting and turning, trying to contort ourselves into the perfect version of what everyone else wants us to be? It's like we're constantly walking on eggshells, afraid to say the wrong thing or make the wrong move, lest we incur the wrath of the all-powerful day. But let me tell you, my friends, that game is rigged, and it's time to walk away from the emotional twister mat once and for all. Because the truth is, you can't please everyone, no matter how hard you try. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can start to focus on the only person whose approval really matters: you. You see, people-pleasing is a trap that so many of us fall into, and it's all because we've been conditioned to believe that our worth is tied to how others perceive us. We've been taught that we need to be the perfect friend, the perfect partner, the perfect employee, and the perfect everything else, just to be worthy of love and acceptance. But here's the thing, as the wise philosopher Lao Tzu once said, care about what other people think, and you will always be their prisoner. Your worth is not determined by the opinions of others. It's something that you have to cultivate within yourself, and it's a journey that's worth taking. When you start to validate yourself and stop seeking external approval, you'll find that you become more confident, more resilient, and more in control of your own life. You'll be able to make decisions that are true to your own values and beliefs without worrying about what everyone else thinks. And let's be real, folks, it's not always easy to break free from the people-pleasing trap. It's like trying to untangle a giant ball of yarn with all the expectations and demands of others constantly pulling you in different directions. But as the famous self-help author Brené Brown so eloquently put it, owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing we'll ever do. So, what are you waiting for? It's time to start validating yourself and rejecting the external approval that society so desperately wants to impose on us. Let's get out there and show the world that your worth is not determined by the opinions of others, but by the person you are and the values you hold dear. 4. Give zero fucks, how to master the art of not giving a damn. Alright, my fellow fuck givers, gather round because we're about to dive headfirst into the sacred realm of the give a fuck budget. It's time to face the music. We've all got a finite number of fucks to dole out, and it's high time we start managing that precious resource with the care and attention it deserves. I mean, think about it. How many times have you found yourself stressing and obsessing over what other people think of you? It's like we're constantly walking on eggshells, afraid to say the wrong thing or make the wrong move, lest we incur the wrath of the all-powerful they. But let me tell you, my friends, that game is rigged, and it's time to walk away from the emotional twister mat once and for all. Because the truth is, you can't please everyone, no matter how hard you try. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can start to focus on the only person whose approval really matters: you. You see, we've been conditioned to believe that we need to give a fuck about everything and everyone. We're constantly bombarded with messages telling us that we need to be the perfect friend, the perfect partner, the perfect employee, and the perfect everything else. And if we don't meet those unrealistic standards, well, we're just not good enough. But as the wise author Glennon Doyle once said, we can do hard things. And when it comes to validating ourselves and stop seeking external approval, it's definitely a hard thing to do, but it's also a journey that's worth taking. When you start to validate yourself and stop giving a fuck about what everyone else thinks, you'll find that you become more confident, more resilient, and more in control of your own life. You'll be able to make decisions that are true to your own values and beliefs without worrying about the opinions of others. And let's be real, folks. It's not always easy to break free from the people-pleasing trap. As the author, Glennon Doyle, also said, the middle of the bridge is the hardest part to cross, but with a little bit of self-love, a whole lot of courage, and a healthy dose of, don't give a damn what you think, you can do it. So, what are you waiting for? It's time to start allocating your fucks wisely and stop giving a damn about what everyone else thinks. Let's get out there and show the world that your worth is not determined by the opinions of others, but by the person you are and the values you hold dear. 5. From self-doubt to self-worth, it's the ultimate glow-up. Let's be real, how many of us have spent way too much time and energy worrying about what everyone else thinks of us? It's like we're constantly walking on eggshells, afraid to make a move or say the wrong thing, lest we incur the wrath of the all-powerful they. And let me tell you, that's a surefire way to end up feeling like a hot mess of self-doubt and insecurity. But you know what they say, the only way out is through. And when it comes to building up your self-worth, my friends, that's the absolute truth. It's time to stop playing small and start embracing the badass that you are. You see, self-worth isn't something that's just handed to us on a silver platter. As the renowned self-help author Mel Robbins once said, self-worth comes from one thing, thinking that you are worthy. It's something that we have to cultivate and nurture within ourselves, and it's a journey that's worth taking. And let me tell you, it's not always easy. We've been conditioned from a young age to seek the approval of others, to constantly strive for that elusive, perfect version of ourselves. But as the wise philosopher Lao Tzu once said, care about what other people think and you will always be their prisoner. Your worth is not determined by the opinions of others. It's something that you have to define for yourself, and it's a journey that's worth taking. And let me tell you, it's not always easy. We've been conditioned from a young age to seek the approval of others, to constantly strive for that elusive, perfect version of ourselves. But as the wise philosopher Lao Tzu once said, care about what other people think, and you will always be their prisoner. Your worth is not determined by the opinions of others. It's something that you have to define for yourself, and it's a journey that's worth taking. When you start to validate yourself and stop seeking external approval, you'll find that you become more confident, more resilient, and more in control of your own life. You'll be able to make decisions that are true to your own values and beliefs without worrying about what everyone else thinks. And let's be real, folks, it's not always easy to break free from the self-doubt trap. It's like trying to untangle a giant ball of yarn with all the expectations and demands of others constantly pulling you in different directions. But as the author, Glennon Doyle, once said, we can do hard things. And with a little bit of self-love, a whole lot of courage, and a healthy dose of I don't give a damn what you think, you can do it. So, what are you waiting for? It's time to start embracing your self-worth and stop seeking external validation. Let's get out there and show the world that your worth is not determined by the opinions of others, but by the person you are and the values you hold dear. It's time to glow up, baby. 6. Self-validation. It's like giving yourself a high five in the mirror every morning, because you're worth it. Self-validation, it's like giving yourself a high five in the mirror every morning, and trust me, you're worth it. I mean, let's be real, how many of us have spent way too much time and energy seeking validation from everyone and their mother, only to end up feeling like a hot mess of self-doubt and insecurity? It's like we're constantly walking on eggshells, afraid to make a move or say the wrong thing, lest we incur the wrath of the all-powerful they. But you know what they say, the only validation that really matters is the kind you give yourself. And let me tell you, it's a game changer, my friends. It's like discovering a secret superpower that you never knew you had. You see, self-validation isn't something that's just handed to us on a silver platter. As the wise philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. It's something that we have to cultivate and nurture within ourselves, and it's a journey that's worth taking. And let me tell you, it's not always easy. We've been conditioned from a young age to seek the approval of others, to constantly strive for that elusive, perfect version of ourselves. But as the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once said, care about what other people think and you will always be their prisoner. Your worth is not determined by the opinions of others. It's something that you have to define for yourself, and it's a journey that's worth taking. When you start to validate yourself and stop seeking external approval, you'll find that you become more confident, more resilient, and more in control of your own life. You'll be able to make decisions that are true to your own values and beliefs without worrying about what everyone else thinks. And let's be real, folks, it's not always easy to break free from the self-doubt trap. It's like trying to untangle a giant ball of yarn with all the expectations and demands of others constantly pulling you in different directions. But as the famous author Maya Angelou once said, "You are enough. You have nothing to prove to anybody." So, what are you waiting for? It's time to start giving yourself a high five in the mirror every morning and embracing your self-worth. Let's get out there and show the world that your value is not determined by the opinions of others, but by the person you are and the values you hold dear. It's time to level up, my friends.